The show you're about to watch is extremely troubling for very many people who live in Southwest Washington. It should be troubling to anybody and everybody all across this country because this issue is not isolated just in Vancouver or Clark County, Washington. It's not. It is a national issue. It is becoming a problem for everybody. Now, what you guys are about to hear and see is a letter that was submitted to me anonymously by an active duty Vancouver police officer who really wants the public to know and understand what is going on and why things are happening the way they are. Why we are having such a explosion in crime in this area. To say that crime has significantly increased in Vancouver and the surrounding metro area in Clark County is a severe understatement. Violent crimes, shootings, robberies, violent assaults, etc. are now a daily occurrence, often occurring multiple times a day and multiple times a shift, and are at a level that this area has never seen. Most citizens have no idea how bad and how violent the Vancouver area has become over the last couple years. Many area residents are aware that it is worse than it used to be, but are still ignorant to the reality of how violent it has actually become. The majority of violent crimes were always known to be segregated to the west side of the city, with the east side of the city being the safer, more upscale area to visit, shop, and live. That is no longer the case, as the violence now spans the city limits and beyond. With a police department and sheriff's office that suffer from a lack of staffing, resources, and morale, and a slew of new police reform legislation that has significantly hamstrung law enforcement's ability to fight crime and hold criminals accountable, crime continues to rise at an unmanageable pace. Property crimes, including burglaries, auto prowls, and stolen vehicles, are also occurring at a historic level within the county. The city of Vancouver alone handles several hundred stolen vehicle calls each month, and those numbers don't include the stolen vehicle calls handled by the Clark County Sheriff's Office and the surrounding city agencies within the county. Many times these stolen vehicles are used in the commission of other crimes, including violent crimes, drive-by shootings, homicides, carjackings, robberies, etc. Patrol responses to shootings, which have become a much more regular occurrence in the city and can occur multiple times in one shift, are just one example of many violent crime responses that require a large number of patrol personnel to safely and effectively handle. Many times, this leaves very few and sometimes no patrol officers to respond to other calls in that specific precinct for an extended period of time. This is only magnified by the depleted staffing levels of the department. How regular have armed robberies become? A number of convenience stores on the west side of the city have recently and permanently closed. 2 7-Elevens with the possibility of a third 7-Eleven currently being discussed. The reason they gave for closing their stores? Frequent robberies. The owners said that it was too dangerous for their employees, and even if they kept the stores open, they were finding it difficult to hire people to work in those dangerous conditions. And this only scratches the surface of the current conditions. Most don't know how unsafe it actually is out there for them and their families because those responsible for allowing this to spiral out of control don't want you to know. Although there are many deeply rooted moral and societal issues that have driven this current crisis, and this increase in violent crime is certainly not isolated to our area, what are our local contributing factors to the steep climb in lawlessness? 1. State legislation. As many citizens are now learning, Washington passed a number of legislative bills under the guise of police reform that only serve to protect criminals and further tie the hands of law enforcement. The changes are so many and too lengthy to discuss here in detail, but it is important for the community to understand that the legislators responsible for these destructive bills do not have the knowledge, experience, or qualifications to even draft such bills. These bills were drafted and passed in a knee-jerk reaction in response to a progressing political climate that was only further aided by weak leadership in the law enforcement community. Criminals were fully aware of the new law changes and are taking full advantage of those changes. Just one example of such change is when an officer has the ability to use force of any kind to physically detain a suspect after a crime was alleged. That force includes any physical restraint that would prevent the suspect from leaving. Since officers no longer have the ability to physically detain a suspect without a higher level of proof that the suspect committed the crime, suspects now just walk away or flee the scene before the officers have a chance to do a preliminary investigation and develop that higher level of proof. This, unfortunately, is a frequent occurrence that allows the person responsible for the crime to get away and continue to victimize the community. Again, that is just one example of the many changes that have been implemented in Washington that now make it more dangerous for the community and show that lawmakers are more interested in protecting criminals than they are the victims. 2. The court system. When you elect judges who are soft on crime, you get exactly what you voted for. Many criminals get nothing more than a slap on the wrist, while others are not held on any legitimate bail amount, which allows them to continue to offend over and over again without the appropriate level of accountability in relation to the crimes they commit. There have been several recent cases that have made the national spotlight involving violent criminals hurting and killing other victims after being allowed to go free on a low, insignificant bail amount. The public's shock that these criminals, who should be in jail, are able to continue to commit violent acts just shows the public's lack of awareness of what is occurring on a regular basis. Criminals who commit violent crimes and are let out on a low bail amount is something that unfortunately occurs far too frequently. The prosecuting attorney's office. The PA's office is also soft on crime and have developed a reputation among officers and deputies that are unwilling to prosecute many of the criminals, including violent criminals, at the level they should be prosecuted. Dropping gun charges, allowing violent crimes to be pled down to lesser charges, or making the decision to not charge offenders at all is just a common theme that has become a running joke among officers who are asking, why are we even doing this? County corrections in the jail. Although a well-known fact among patrol personnel, what most citizens may be surprised to learn is that the jail itself holds plenty of blame for criminals walking the streets instead of being incarcerated where they belong. When that pandemic began and the hysteria mounted, the Clark County Sheriff continued his display of weakness and let the majority of the inmates go free, all in the name of safety, of course. The jail staff would no longer accept and book into jail anyone that has been arrested for misdemeanor crimes, with only very, very few exceptions. And they would no longer book criminals into jail on many types of outstanding warrants, including some felony warrants. Although county agencies were notified last year that the jail was open again and was now accepting booking most arrests. That is absolutely not the case. Currently, the jail staff does not accept misdemeanor arrests with very few exceptions, and the best they will do is a book and release of the subject, which means the subject goes through the booking and fingerprint process and then is immediately released out the door. The jail also continues to refuse to book criminals on many of the outstanding warrants, including felony DOC warrants that involve violent offenses. So with the jail's refusal to book and house these same criminals are out committing more crime. 5. Weak leadership. Weak and non-existent leadership within the Vancouver Police Department and the Clark County Sheriff's Office has been an ongoing problem for many years and is a subject that would require a significant amount of time to discuss in detail. And although I certainly can speak to one or more of the other, those at the highest ranks of these agencies call themselves leaders, but unfortunately seem to be a bit confused about what a leader actually is and what a leader actually does. Regarding the significant increase in violent crimes and property crimes, what can and should each agency leadership be doing? How about regularly putting out factual crime statistics so the public is aware of what's actually occurring? How about calling out prosecuting attorney's office and making the public aware of many of these reckless and dangerous decisions they make? How about calling out the Clark County Sheriff's Office Corrections Branch and making the public aware that they are refusing to book and lodge many of these violent criminals and allowing them to roam the streets? How about the Clark County Sheriff finally telling us that the jail is open for business and allow cops to take criminals off the streets again? But these are people in the heads of public safety. So why don't they do that? Because they're weak. And their self-interests far exceed the safety of our community on the priority list. Many of them simply want to pander to whatever way the cultural political wind is blowing at the time, even at the expense of their own personnel by propagating dangerously false information. These aren't leaders, they are politicians. Politicians who are disconnected from the reality of what is happening on the streets. And number 6, you. Yes, you are responsible if you recognize the demise of law and order in our community and turn a blind eye by continuing to vote into office the same people who contribute to this continued destruction. Many of these elected officials, some of who are not mentioned here, but not only contribute to the growing chaos, but are actually steering the ship directly into the storm. So, how do we stop this big, dirty snowball of lawlessness that is rolling downhill and continuing to gain momentum? How do we turn the tide and begin working towards real solutions that make our community a safe place to live and work? The voters are the ones who ultimately have the power to hold these elected officials accountable for their reckless actions and inactions. The voters have the power to ensure these officials no longer hold their current positions. But even if voters hold the current leadership accountable, it is the responsibility of the voters to not simply elect more of the same. Sounds a little bit about some stuff that I've talked about. And again, I did a show on this new law that Washington passed, making it pretty much impossible for the police to do their jobs. But it's not just me talking about it all of a sudden. All of a sudden, the news is starting to talk about it too.
In the future. Now that includes a ban on chokeholds and neck restraints, limiting the use of tear gas, and restricting vehicle pursuits. Now that's a major one with police I spoke to. They now need probable cause to use force to go after a suspect in a vehicle. Now the goal is to consider the public first, outweighing the
Well, that was talking about the law. Now let's talk about some of the results of the law. And not just the law in Washington State, but the prosecutors being so soft. The leadership failing so miserably. The fact that crime, guys, is skyrocketing. And here's some of those numbers.
Well, the numbers tell the story. The Clark County Sheriff's Office say stolen vehicle reports went up from 581 in 2020 to 801 in 2021. And the Portland Police Bureau saw the number jump from 570 to more than 1,000 in that same time. Multnomah County Sheriff's Office saw a 25% increase. And those numbers are just for the vehicles that are reported. Police say budget cuts are cutting back on their ability to recover stolen vehicles. They have other crimes to get to. When it comes to...
And it's not just carjackings that are going up. People are getting shot.
Police also tell us a driver was shot in the leg this morning during an attempted carjacking in the area of MacArthur Boulevard and South Leeser Road. Officers tell us the shooters did not get away with the car because they were not able to drive a manual transmission. Police are still Tonight, a mother is pleading for answers after she says her daughter was shot in Clark County while training for a marathon.
You wouldn't expect to be just out doing some exercise on a little city trail and have something like this happen.
Drive-by shooting from early this morning. Now, we're told a man and woman were shot while driving near Northeast Thurston Way and State Route 500. It's not clear who shot at them. Police say their injuries are life-threatening.
Police also tell us
we're currently living in a time where criminals are just brazen. They don't care anymore. They know for a fact that nobody's going to come and get them, and if they do come and get them, they probably won't go to jail anyway. And that is a giant problem in this part of the country and the rest of the country because, again, like I said earlier, this isn't isolated to Southwest Washington.
Well, Jenny, this parking lot here at Fred Meyer is where at least one of those purse snatchings happened, and we've also learned there have been similar incidents that have occurred on the Vancouver waterfront and at grocery store parking lots all across the city.
One lady was down on the waterfront. She put her purse on her table, and the guy came up and said, "Ma'am," and grabbed her purse and ran off. And she said that, within a couple minutes, they went to the local Fred Meyer over at Grand Station and charged over $2,800 on her card. The frustrating part.
They literally took the purse and immediately went to a Fred Meyer's and bought a whole bunch of Visa gift cards. That is brazen. They're not worried about anything. And that stuff has been going on all around this county. And yet, our jails aren't being overcrowded. Weird how that works. I wonder why that is.
Released anyway. In a National Review op-ed, he wrote, "In recent years, radical left-wing lawyers, many supported by billionaire George Soros, have won elected office across America. They have become district attorneys and state attorneys in many major American cities. These so-called Soros prosecutors, or progressive prosecutors, have betrayed the public trust and made our communities less safe. Instead of fighting crime, they are abetting it." One example.
And don't just take my word for how brazen these people are and how unafraid these people are. Check out an eyewitness and what he had to say about what he witnessed these criminals doing.
30 a.m.
They were basically just walking from one house to the next, just checking doors. And we were sad to see that my neighbor, his door was opened, and then two of them rifled through it. And then they just kept on proceeding down.
Next level.
Involving shots is dangerous. I imagine if someone was outside or if the door was open, they could actually come into the house.
And his deputies.
I feel violated. I feel like that Vancouver's going in the wrong direction right now, and we're allowing and being too permissive on this stuff.
He's not wrong. we are being extremely too permissive on this stuff. And like the cop said who wrote that letter, it is up to you to make sure that this stuff stops. It is up to you to make sure you actually go out and you vote, but not just vote. You need to be going to your city council. You need to be going to the mayor's office. You need to be going to the courthouse, and you need to be having rallies and protests saying law and order, equal justice. This is important stuff. This is for our public safety. The government's only job is to ensure the safety of the people, and they are failing. They suck. Our federal government is shipping in criminals and are flying them into different places in the dead of night. They don't care. We have an open border. We have open jails. We have a revolving door of a justice system who only goes out and persecutes and prosecutes people who they disagree with politically. They don't care about the normal average day criminal. They don't care about people who are out there being killed or getting shot or being robbed. And you know what? Here's some proof. This last video I'm going to show you right here, I'm going to end it with this video because you should be outraged, because this stuff happens all the time now in this state, in this country, because of police reform garbage, because, do you have probable cause? Well, I mean, the dude just, I'm not going to spoil the video. I'm angry, and you're going to be just as angry as I am after you watch this last little bit here. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you all.
I don't have all the details of this case, but unless we have PC for that occupant, we cannot pursue.
Okay, and he's going under 167. Vehicle was taken in an armed carjacking.
Yeah, I'm aware. It's just state law. If you're able to follow, we can maybe advise WSD.
Alright, well, they have the same deal. We're about out of gas, so if no one's going to work on it, we're just going to let it go.
I've aired it to Federal Way, and I will advise State Patrol as well.
Okay, well, we're turning off. Last seen westbound on 18.
I can't be canceled, there's no way that you can stop me. Fully independent, there's no label who can drop me. Y'all been starting rumors, let me help you with some. Can't cancel me, my life is scandal free. There ain't no sponsors taking losses cause the brand is me. My hands are clean, my family and my fans agree. Y'all can't cancel me for facts because you're mad and weak. I don't care if you mad at me, okay? Go ahead and change the channel. Don't waste your time trying to cancel me. They love me cause they know that I'm an asshole. Say what you want, I guess it is what it is. Haters can talk, but they can't cancel the kid. Go ahead and go off, try and say this is it. But I swear to God, you can't cancel the kid. Y'all some snakes, I don't need fruit from that apple tree. I ain't doing features or buying beats. I'm a wolf on lie with sheep. I am what I am, and I can't hide my teeth. Way too many rumors, I'm like, who said it? Never met him. If he dissed me, probably about to drop a new record. I do what I want, don't matter if I get approved or not. Y'all ain't gonna cyberbully me or try to push on me until I'm becoming some dude who I'm not. Go ahead and call me a piece of garbage, make a starving artist your primary target. I'm the largest monster in the farthest darkness. I'm a closet sharpened, I'm an army sergeant. If people wanna hate, then I'm grateful. It's only gonna make what I say less painful. Look at my face, embrace I'm unstable. I ain't gonna break or shake or feel shameful. I am not playing it safe, I said what I said, it is what it is.